Unaware his wife had just inherited $8.9 billion fortune, he divorced her and his disabled daughter to marry his mistress. What she did crushed them forever. Sarah Mitchell's hands trembled as she stared at the envelope on the kitchen table. The return address told her everything she needed to know. Peterson and Associates, family law. She'd been expecting this, dreading this, but nothing prepared her for the moment the papers would actually arrive. She heard Emily's wheelchair rolling down the hallway. "Mommy, is it dinner time?" Sarah quickly wiped her eyes and turned with a practiced smile. "Almost, sweetheart. Just give me 10 more minutes, okay?" Emily nodded, her 8-year-old face lighting up despite the leg braces and the daily challenges of her cerebral palsy. "Can we have spaghetti?" "Of course we can." As Emily rolled back toward her room, Sarah finally opened the envelope. Her eyes scanned the legal jargon until they landed on the paragraph that made her stomach drop. Marcus wasn't just asking for a divorce. He was requesting 0 custody, 0 visitation rights for Emily. His lawyer had actually written the words, "The child's extensive medical needs make co-parenting impractical for the respondent's lifestyle and career obligations." The respondent, that's what Marcus was now. Not her husband of 10 years, not Emily's father. The respondent. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Hope you got the papers. My lawyer says if you sign quickly, we can avoid court. Better for everyone, especially Emily. Better for everyone." The man who'd once promised to love her in sickness and in health, who'd held Emily in the delivery room and cried when the doctors explained their daughter would face lifelong challenges, was now calling her a burden too impractical for his lifestyle. She knew about Vanessa, of course, Marcus's executive assistant, who traveled with him on business trips, who answered his phone at midnight, who wore the perfume Sarah smelled on his shirts. She'd known for 6 months but kept hoping he'd remember who they used to be. The next morning, Sarah sat in the legal aid office, signing papers with shaking hands. The lawyer, a kind woman named Rebecca Chen, pushed a box of tissues across the desk. "You're sure you don't want to fight for spousal support? Given your daughter's medical needs and the fact that you left your career to care for her." "I just want it over," Sarah whispered. "I can't afford to fight him. He has corporate lawyers. I have nothing." She didn't have nothing, technically. She had the small apartment Marcus had agreed to let her keep for 6 months. She had her certification as a medical transcriptionist that let her work from home between Emily's doctor appointments and physical therapy sessions. She had exactly $3,847 in their joint savings account that his lawyer said she could keep. And she had Emily, which meant she had everything that mattered. That evening, after putting Emily to bed with 3 different medications and 2 breathing treatments, Sarah collapsed on the couch. Her phone lit up with a notification. Instagram. She shouldn't have looked, but she did. Marcus had posted a photo. Him and Vanessa at some rooftop restaurant, champagne glasses raised, her hand prominently displayed with a diamond that could choke a horse. The caption read, "When you know, you know. Life begins at 35. Nora, new chapter. Blessed beyond measure. Life begins at 35, the age he was when Emily was born, when their life together supposedly meant something. The comments were even worse. Friends Sarah had known for years, people who'd been at their wedding, were congratulating him. "You deserve this happiness. She's gorgeous. About time you put yourself first." Sarah closed the app and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she'd be stronger. Tomorrow she'd figure out how to explain to Emily why Daddy wasn't coming back. Tomorrow she'd start the next chapter of their lives. But tonight, she let herself break. The next morning brought another envelope. This one was from Whitmore and Associates, estate attorneys, with a New York address. Sarah almost threw it away, assuming it was junk mail, but something made her open it. "Dear Mrs. Mitchell, we represent the estate of Margaret Whitmore, your late maternal aunt. We regret to inform you of her passing on November 1st. As the sole surviving heir designated in her will, please contact our office immediately regarding the inheritance proceedings." Sarah frowned. Aunt Margaret? She had vague memories of a woman who'd visited once when she was 7 or 8, who'd sent birthday cards with crisp $50 bills until Sarah turned 18. But they'd never been close. Mom had mentioned Margaret moved to New York and made something of herself in business. but they'd lost touch decades ago. Still, any inheritance would help. Maybe enough to cover Emily's upcoming surgery. Maybe enough for a security deposit on a better apartment in a good school district. She called the number with zero expectations. 3 hours later, Sarah sat in stunned silence as the attorney explained via video call that Margaret Whitmore had built a tech fortune in the early days of Silicon Valley, invested brilliantly, and died worth $8.9 billion. And Sarah, her only niece, inherited everything. "I'm sorry, did you say billion? With a B?" "Yes, Mrs. Mitchell. Billion. The estate includes stock portfolios, real estate holdings, a venture capital firm, and various other assets. After taxes and estate fees, you're looking at approximately $6.2 billion in liquid assets, plus the business holdings." Sarah's vision blurred. She heard the attorney talking about trusts and financial advisors and media strategy, but all she could think was, "I signed the divorce papers yesterday. Marcus doesn't know. Nobody knows." "Mrs. Mitchell, are you still there?" Yes, can we keep this quiet just for a little while?" "Of course, we'll need you to come to New York next week to sign documents, but we can arrange private transportation and accommodations. Given the size of the estate, I strongly recommend you don't discuss this with anyone until we have proper security and financial management in place." After the call ended, Sarah walked to Emily's room. Her daughter was doing homework at her adapted desk, tongue poking out in concentration. "Hey, baby, how would you feel about taking a trip to New York?" Emily's face lit up. "Really? Like a vacation? Like a new beginning?" 3 weeks later, after signing more documents than she thought existed in the world, Sarah stood in the penthouse apartment the estate attorneys had arranged for her in Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Emily was in her new room, specially adapted with the best medical equipment money could buy, squealing with delight at the touch-screen controls that let her adjust everything from the bed height to the lighting with minimal physical effort. "Mommy, there's a whole room just for my wheelchair, and the bathroom has a robot arm that helps me reach everything." Sarah smiled through tears. For the first time in 8 years, she wasn't worried about how they'd pay for Emily's next surgery. She wasn't calculating whether she could afford both groceries and physical therapy this month. She wasn't drowning. She'd hired a team, a financial advisor who came highly recommended and immediately put most of the fortune in trusts and investments, a media consultant who advised her to stay quiet for now, a lawyer, not legal aid, but a partner at a firm so prestigious they had their own building, and most importantly, a medical team who evaluated Emily and presented a treatment plan that could help her walk someday. "Mrs. Mitchell, we've had remarkable success with this combination of surgeries and intensive therapy," Dr. Patricia Reynolds explained. "I can't promise miracles, but Emily's case is very promising. The cerebral palsy is relatively mild, and at her age, with the right interventions..." Sarah had sobbed in that office, and the doctor had simply held her hand. "Money can't buy everything," Dr. Reynolds said softly, "but it can buy access to people who dedicate their lives to helping children like Emily. Let us try." Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Marcus was discovering that marrying Vanessa was nothing like dating Vanessa. She quit her job the day after the wedding, immediately hired an interior designer to gut his condo, and developed expensive tastes in everything from handbags to spa treatments. "Babe, the Platinum Amex got declined," Vanessa said, storming into his home office where he was reviewing a contract. "You need to call them. It didn't get declined. You hit the limit. This month? But it's only the 18th. Marcus rubbed his temples. The condo renovation had cost $200,000. The wedding another $80,000. Vanessa's wardrobe appropriate for a senior executive's wife had run close to $50,000. His salary was excellent, $340,000 a year, but it wasn't infinite. "Maybe we need to budget a little," he suggested carefully. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Budget? You told me you were successful. You told me we'd have the life I deserved. We do have a good life. Sarah had nothing, and you left her. I left my job for you. I turned down other opportunities. You owe me the lifestyle you promised." Marcus felt a headache building. He didn't miss Sarah. She'd become so tired, so focused on Emily. No fun anymore. But at least Sarah had never looked at him like he was a disappointing purchase. His phone rang. His boss. Marcus, we need to talk about the Hendrick account. 20 minutes later, Marcus walked out of his home office in shock. He'd lost the company's biggest client because of what they called attention to detail failures. His boss had been diplomatic, but Marcus understood he was on thin ice. The last 6 months, distracted by the divorce and the new marriage, he'd let things slip. They're putting me on a performance improvement plan, he told Vanessa. What does that mean? It means if I don't turn things around in 90 days, I could lose my job. Vanessa went very quiet. Then she picked up her phone and walked into the bedroom, closing the door. 6 months vanished like smoke. Sarah barely recognized her life. She'd assembled a team to manage Margaret's business holdings. She wasn't foolish enough to think she could run a venture capital firm without experience. But she'd surprised herself by being good at the strategic decisions, at understanding people and potential. She'd also started a foundation focused on accessibility and medical research for children with disabilities. The Sarah Mitchell Foundation launched quietly, but its $500 million endowment made immediate waves in the medical community. And Emily was thriving. 3 surgeries, months of intensive therapy, and her daughter had taken her first independent steps last week. They'd both cried. Dr. Reynolds had cried. Even the normally stoic physical therapist had gotten misty-eyed. I'm so proud of you, Sarah had whispered, holding Emily's hands as her daughter stood on the shaking legs. I'm proud of you too, Mommy. You saved us. Sarah had also, tentatively, started dating. James Whitfield was a widowed father of 2, a cardiac surgeon who understood medical challenges, who thought Emily was remarkable, and who'd waited 3 months before even asking Sarah to dinner because he wanted to make sure she knew he was interested in her, not her fortune. I have a confession, he'd said on their first date. I Googled you. I know about the inheritance. I need you to know I signed a document with my lawyer saying I have no financial interest in your assets. I don't want you wondering. Sarah had fallen a little bit in love with him right then. They were at a charity gala. Sarah's foundation was sponsoring when her past and present collided. She was wearing a custom gown, her hair professionally styled, talking to a journalist from Forbes about the foundation's work, when she heard a familiar voice behind her. Sarah? She turned. Marcus stood there in an ill-fitting tuxedo, his face showing shock and confusion. Vanessa was next to him, dripping in jewelry that Sarah now recognized as quality costume pieces, not the real diamonds she'd probably told Marcus they were. Marcus, Sarah said politely, her voice steady. This is unexpected. What are you? How are you? Is that really you? The Forbes journalist sensed drama and tried to linger, but Sarah's assistant smoothly redirected her away. I'm doing well, Sarah said simply. How are you? Marcus's eyes were scanning the room, taking in the evidence. Sarah's name on banners, important people deferring to her, the obvious signs of wealth and power. You inherited money, he said, and it wasn't a question. I did. When? Sarah could have lied. Should have, probably. But she looked at this man she'd once loved. This man who'd abandoned their daughter when she needed him most, and decided he deserved the truth. The day after our divorce was finalized, she watched the color drain from his face, watched him do the math, watched realization hit like a freight train. How much? Enough, Sarah said quietly. More than enough for Emily and me to be very comfortable. Emily, he breathed. How is she? I've been meaning to call, but what, Marcus? But you were busy with your new life? The one you chose over your disabled daughter? Vanessa grabbed his arm. We should go. No, wait. Marcus's face was desperate now. Sarah, I made mistakes. I was going through something, a crisis maybe. But I've thought about Emily every day. I want to be in her life again. Kids need their fathers. Sarah felt James approach from behind, his presence solid and reassuring. Everything okay here? Fine, Sarah said. We were just leaving. She started to walk away, then paused and turned back. Actually, Marcus, there's something you should know. Emily doesn't ask about you anymore. It took about 3 months of therapy for her to understand that the problem wasn't her, that she wasn't too much of a burden for her own father to love. She's better now. She's actually walking now. Did you know that? 3 surgeries and months of therapy? She's incredible, and she did it without you. Sarah, please. I'm not angry with you, Sarah continued, and she meant it. I was for a long time, but then I realized that you leaving was the best thing that ever happened to us. Emily and I built a life without you, a better life, and we're happy. She saw tears in his eyes, but she felt nothing. No satisfaction in his pain, no desire to twist the knife. Just nothing. Take care of yourself, Marcus. As she walked away with James, she heard Vanessa hiss, $8 billion? You left her right before she inherited $8 billion? Sarah didn't hear Marcus's response. She didn't need to. The aftermath was predictable. Marcus tried to call hundreds of times. His lawyers sent letters about resuming custody arrangements, about Emily needing her father. Sarah's lawyers sent back documentation of his voluntary termination of parental rights, his written statement calling Emily's needs impractical for his lifestyle. Vanessa filed for divorce 3 months after the gala, taking half of what Marcus had left, which wasn't much after his job loss. He'd been fired from his firm 1 week after the gala. Though Sarah's investigators confirmed she had nothing to do with it, his performance really had been that bad. Through her business network, Sarah heard that Marcus was working as a sales manager at a mid-sized firm now, making a quarter of his old salary. That Vanessa had already remarried to a venture capitalist who actually had the money she'd thought Marcus possessed. That Marcus was living in a studio apartment and driving for a rideshare service on weekends to make ends meet. She felt no pleasure in any of it. She'd meant what she said. She wasn't angry anymore. His choices had destroyed him more effectively than any revenge she could have plotted. 2 years after the gala, Sarah was at Emily's school play. Her daughter had the lead role, singing and dancing with confidence and joy. James sat beside her, his daughter on his other side. They were talking about moving in together, blending their families, building something real. During intermission, Sarah stepped outside for air. She found Marcus there, standing by the fence, looking through the window at the auditorium. "Hello, Marcus." He jumped, then sagged when he saw her. He looked older, tired, defeated. "I just wanted to see her," he said quietly. "I know I don't have the right, but I heard she was performing, and I needed to see her." Sarah could have called security, could have gotten a restraining order. Instead, she looked at this broken man and felt something unexpected. Pity. "She's remarkable," Sarah said. "She got the lead role on her own merit. The drama teacher didn't even know who I was." "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered, "for everything. I was an idiot. I was selfish. I threw away everything that mattered, and I can't get it back." "No," Sarah agreed gently. "You can't." "Does she ever ask about me?" Sarah considered lying, sparing him, but he deserved the truth. "No. She has a father figure in her life now. James, my partner. He was at every one of her surgeries. He taught her to ride an adaptive bike. He's in there right now, probably taking 100 pictures. She calls him James, not Dad, because she's wise enough to understand that parenthood is earned, not automatic. But she's happy, Marcus. She's loved. She's thriving." Marcus's face crumpled. "I thought I wanted freedom. I thought I wanted the exciting life, the beautiful wife, the no complications path. I gave up everything for nothing." "You gave up everything for what you thought you wanted," Sarah corrected. "And you got exactly what you chose. Vanessa was exactly who she appeared to be. I was exactly who I appeared to be. Emily was exactly who she appeared to be. You just chose wrong." The bell rang, signaling the end of intermission. "I should go back in," Sarah said. "You should probably leave before school security sees you." "Sarah?" He stopped her with her name. "Are you happy?" She thought about her daughter, healthy and confident. About James, who made her laugh and understood her in ways Marcus never had. About the foundation changing lives. About the fact that she woke up every morning without fear, without that knot of anxiety about how she'd pay for everything Emily needed. "Yes," she said simply. "I really am." As she walked back into the auditorium, she didn't look back. The second act was starting, and Emily was waiting in the wings, ready for her next scene. Sarah slipped into her seat next to James, who immediately took her hand. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," she whispered. On stage, Emily stepped into the spotlight, and the audience erupted in applause. She was radiant, confident, completely unaware that her biological father was watching through a window outside, seeing everything he'd lost. Sarah squeezed James's hand and watched her daughter shine. This was the revenge that mattered. Not Marcus's suffering, but Emily's joy. Not what they'd lost, but what they'd gained. 3 years after signing those divorce papers with trembling hands, Sarah had learned the most important lesson. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful from the ashes that the person who left you can only watch through windows forever on the outside of the life they could have had. And as Emily took her final bow, her smile bright enough to light the world, Sarah knew they'd done exactly that. They hadn't just survived, they'd soared.